Global Broadcasting Networks presents Coach Talk Radio. Create the time, money, and lifestyle you want with tips, tricks, and techniques that get you started today from some of the best internet minds in the business. Now here are your hosts, internet brand strategist Sandra Beck.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck and this is Coach Talk Radio, and we are visiting today with Rhys Thomas. Now, last week we had a show with Rhys and we talked about his 5 life purpose profiles and how this can affect us as business people, as managers, as salespeople. And if you want to get the best out of your people, helping them to get what they want while doing what they makes them happy, guess what? Also makes you happy. You know, I go back to my years, many years ago, I worked for J.W. Marriott, and he was a big proponent of if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your business. They'll take care of your customers, because quite frankly, when we're happy, we love what we're doing, and we're getting ourselves fulfilled in our careers. It's really easy to be generous and loving and supportive and wonderful to our support staff, to the people who help make our jobs possible. It's really easy for us to handle difficult clients or difficult managers, or go up the blue wave, you know, all the way to the top. You can find some really difficult people. So today we're talking about this purpose-centered business, and we're going to talk about how to use these 5 life purpose profiles to create the successful business of your dreams, but also to give people what they really want, to get what you really want, and have some fun doing it along the way. It really does ease. It's like, you know, there's business manners. Business manners ease social conversations. They ease social business transactions. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these 5 life purpose profiles and how they can help us deliver products that'll make your clients happy, making them raving fans for life. And then also how to tailor service, how to see these life profiles in your clients so you can, you know, shift and change so that you can get the best out of them, get the best for them. And ultimately we create, you know, a win-win-win for everybody so that we're happy and everybody's happy. And I know it sounds like happy all over the place, but I will say the book that Rhys Thomas wrote, The 5 Life Purpose Profiles, has really helped me simplify a lot of the personality typing that's out there, the profiling that's out there. I kind of dump people, right or wrong, into one of these 5 boxes, and then I try to think about them in that way and help give them what they want, not in a creepy kind of way, but in a way that helps serve the greater good for all of us, not just me, not just them. So Rhys, I hope I'm employing some of these techniques properly. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Yes, totally. I'm glad to be here.
Now, for those who are just joining today's show and haven't heard you last week, and for those of you that want to look up these other shows, you can find them on Coach Talk Radio. You can find them on TogiNet Radio and look for Coach Talk Radio. You can also go on iTunes and Google Play and find Coach Talk Radio with Sandra Beck, and you'll be able to hear these other episodes. Rhys, you have a great background. I'd like you to share your background with everybody quickly so we can get onto your material and people will know who you are, why they should care, and, you know, should they believe you?
Well, my background started as a competitive athlete and tennis professional, and I was also had sort of a side that I really enjoyed, kind of spirituality, quantum mechanics, things like that. I studied all that stuff on the side. Didn't really tell anybody about that kind of stuff, but I was, you know, like to be successful and driven in all the things that I did. And I ran. At 23 years old, I was running a tennis facility where I had 15 people, 15 tennis pros working for me, and I sort of got thrown into how to run a business, and made all the mistakes that, of course, a 23-year-old could make, but probably the mistakes that anybody could make about how to hire, how to work with people. And I think our focus today is going to be on what if you knew the real needs or the real purpose and mission of the people that you're hiring, and understood that very often they don't have the same needs or mission that you do, even though their needs and mission are totally in your wheelhouse. So I had people that I would hire in my 20s and my 30s that looked great on paper, and they looked like they were sort of right. They were like me. They were go-getters. They were doing things, but they just didn't. They just couldn't maintain a book of lessons. They couldn't maintain their people were always feeling like they didn't care. And then I'd hire somebody that I was thinking, oh, this person doesn't have that much talent. They aren't a great player. They aren't very, but they had the most loyal, fantastic, clients, and were always overbooked and couldn't get enough time. And I started, and back then I was always like, well, what am I doing wrong here? And it wasn't until later when I realized that I was in the wrong job and I was trying to be the wrong person, and I was trying to please the people and trying to and letting other people tell me, my bosses I then went into a country club where I had many people working for me again, but I was working for a number of people and trying to be what they wanted me to be when they didn't really care who I was, or really didn't understand that who I was not what they were asking me to do, became a real struggle, and it led to me sort of doing the self-discovery, going and finding through energy medicine that there are these literally different types of people, and what drove me to write my book, Discover Your Purpose, and now really working on this on my current book, the how to apply it to your business, and recognizing that as an employer, one of the biggest mistakes employers make is they try to hire themselves. And they don't and try to hire other people that think like they do and work like they do and do, but if unless you want to hire all the employees, which I did a lot of times, hire employees who ended up trying to undermine you and get your job, you don't want to hire yourself. You want to hire people that have other sets of skills that support your skills, and knowing the difference is really important.
Well, and Rhys, I always had, my own theory about hiring people, and it served me really well. And I want to share with other people. Whenever I hire somebody, it's because they can do something that I can't, that I don't like to do, that I don't want to do, or that I'm terrible at. There's a theory about, paying top dollar for mediocre work. And for example, I am really, really awful at graphic design. I know what I want and I could draw it with crayons like a 3-year-old, but it takes me forever, to use these graphic design programs, even the easy Monkeyworks ones. I can't seem to translate that. Now I can do it, but it might take me 4 hours. And in 4 hours, I can close, 5 deals and make enough money, to feed a small family, for a month, versus sitting there at the computer doing this graphic design and therefore getting, paying top dollar, which is my earning potential, for mediocre results, which is what comes out and usually has to be redone anyway. And then I got to pay for it on top of it. So there's an additional cost. So if I'm not good at it and I don't like doing it, I don't want to do it, because there's things in our career that we are really good at, but we don't necessarily want to do it. Like, I'm a top-notch literary editor, but I don't really enjoy that. I can do it really well, but I don't want to do it, so I choose to leverage it. And finally, the stuff that I can't do. So I've always used that kind of criteria to get things done, and I recognize that we only have so many hours in the day to make a living.
Right. And so for you, as probably a number of the people that are listening, if they follow you, you probably have a lot of charismatic leaders also listening. Charismatic leaders do tend to be incredibly good at a lot of things, including not wanting to work, not wanting to have to do everything, and they're very good at that. That's why they're leaders. And so learning to delegate as a charismatic leader, and recognizing that even though you are really good at, say, editing, or really good at knowing what you want the graphics to look like, or knowing the creative vision, or the whatever it happens to be, or even the interpersonal, connecting and motivating people and talking with them, and being sort of the center of the staff. You can do all of those things, but but at some point you have to figure out what is your best. And in your business, everybody needs to have a little bit of everything. Everybody has to care about others. Everybody has to have some level of organization. Everybody has to lead at least their department or whatever they're doing in some way. They all have to have a compassion for their clients and for themselves and for others. And everybody needs a little bit of creativity. And those are the 5 kinds of people. But one of those is going to be the one that you're here to really focus on. And if you're running a business, being able to spend most of your time doing what you were born to do, what your natural abilities are, is really important. So for you, like you said, the leadership that the other people in the business can't do, the selling, the cutting deals, the networking with other business owners, the building the bigger vision of the business. That's your job. And so very similarly, anybody that you hire, if you give them too many jobs that they can do but aren't really born to do, they're not going to be, their performance won't be as good, and you won't get, and you'll be frustrated with the fact that they are struggling in areas, when your job is really to be able to figure out quickly, this person's going to be great in this area, and so I want to really support them in that and take away these other areas that they're not going to be great at. So for instance, if you have someone who's just really friendly and nice, they are going to be awesome in customer service, but they're going to be a terrible salesman. And so being able to recognize the difference between an incredible salesman who's always friendly and nice, but in the right way at the right times, and someone who's just really friendly and would literally in a sales deal give away the farm.
Now, Rhys, I got to cut you off here. We're going to go to commercial break. If you guys are wondering what Rhys is talking about with these different life purpose profiles, you're going to want to get a copy of his book. It's wherever books are sold. It's on Amazon. It's on Google Play. There is an Audible book on Audible. If you want to look up his book, it's discoveryourpurposebook.com. You can find the book there, and you can follow along as we go on through the show. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about tailoring our job descriptions to the right personality profile. Rhys gave you a good taste of it. We're going to have more after the break.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life and the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network. Radio with a cutting edge.
Congratulations on being the proud owner of an adorable, soft, cuddly, sweet-smelling, smiling, cooing, hungry, tired, gassy, screaming little bundle of joy. So now what? Where's the owner's manual for this thing? Where are my instructions? Right here. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com. Infant care specialist Blythe Lipman has worked with babies for over 20 years and works extensively with new parents, providing workshops, in-home visits, tips, and daily phone calls to ease those frazzled nerves. With Baby and Toddler Instructions, you can get the advice you need on how to survive and enjoy your baby's first year. For more information on Blythe and how she can help you, go to babyinstructions.com. From 32 ways to stop a baby from crying to 14 ways to get a baby to eat and so much more. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com.
Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. Taking care of business.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck and this is Coach Talk Radio, and we're visiting today with Rhys Thomas. Now, Rhys Thomas wrote a book about these 5 life purpose profiles. They kind of divide people up into 5 different groups, and if you learn the pros and cons of each group, it can make things a lot easier. I know it has for me, which is why I bring Rhys on the show. You can find his book at discoveryourpurposebook.com. You can also type in Rhys Thomas, R-H-Y-S, and go on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles. It's anywhere books are sold. And there is an audiobook, so you can listen to this stuff in your car, which is really cool. Now, Rhys, you have a company with 30 or so people working for you right now. You've been in business a long time. I bet there's been times that you've hired what you thought was the right person for the job, only to find out you've got the wrong person for the job. And when we were going to commercial break, you were talking about hiring a great friendly person for a sales job versus a customer service job. Same kind of characteristics, 2 completely different outcomes as a company.
Right. Yeah. And it is really important to be able to tell the difference because when you're just looking at resumes, where people have worked and what they've done it's not necessarily indicative of what their skill sets are, because people are, especially driven people that want to succeed or want to make money, are willing to do whatever they're told to do and stay with it or be successful at that, and that can show successfully on their resume. But what you can't see is how happy they were doing that, and it really takes understanding that there are really 5 kinds of people, and there are creative people that really love to have something creative going on, and there are deep feeling people that love to have a deep connection with the other people in their office mates, not just the clients, but the office mates. They have to have this deep connection. There are team players who just want to be in as big a group as they can be in. If you put them alone somewhere, they're not going to be happy. And then there are the achievers who will always be wanting to see their position always getting more expanded, and they operate. They're great sort of overseers of lots of people, and they are your COOs. They organize and structure and build, and they often run businesses very well themselves. And then you have the super CEO leader type and founders, and who are sort of always, the go-getters in the world, and they make great salesmen, and of course, and leaders, and they will always be looking for they want to make more than the president. They're very competitive around their business, and so if you hire each of those people, you want to make sure that their job supports that deeper need that we just talked about, the creative need, the feeling need, the companionship need, the achievement need, or the leadership need. And if you can't get them to there, they will not be very happy, and or they will literally have to fake it. And so if you ask a team player, like we talked about, these warm, sort of friendly people that you really like them. It's like, hey, this person will do anything I ask them to do. Hey, and they seem so good with customers, right? Why wouldn't I want them selling? And so you give them a selling position, and they go out and they sell, but they can't close the deal in a way that is beneficial to the business, because they can't make the distinction between who they're serving and what the value is to do both. So they have a very difficult time sort of making that the money and not giving away the farm in the deal. Whereas the charismatic leader will naturally know how to be charming and nice and connecting with people, but be very clear that the bottom line is that the business is in the business of making money, and there's a price there's a minimum price that they will take, and they'll do whatever it takes to make sure that the person buying, if they're in their core, they make sure that the person buying knows that this is the best thing that they've ever done is buy your product, but they will not give away the price in it. They won't give away themselves too inexpensively. So So it's really important to know the difference between two incredibly friendly-looking people that they will handle a situation very differently. On the other hand, the charismatic leader, you put them in a team environment where everybody has to get along and sort of help each other out and do things like that, and they will not thrive in that environment because they will get very competitive and controlling over materials or over things, what they're doing, and they'll want to have the credit individually when they do really well. They won't want to credit the team as much as they will themselves, because that's how they're wired. They want to stand out. They want to be special. And whereas the other person, the team player, the very nice person, actually will be the one that does most of the work and do most of the things, and they will always stand up and say it was a team effort. So certainly there's a big broad difference between those two types of people and how they operate. But knowing that as a leader, those are two of the most common people that you want to hire. You want to hire people to pull people together. You want to hire people that are really good service people as well.
Now, what about the managers who are doing this, like the people listening today? You mentioned earlier that you probably thought the majority of the people that were listening, and I tend to agree with you, are more charismatic leaders, which is why we're in, maybe solopreneur, entrepreneur, leadership positions within companies and organizations. We all tend to be good at a lot of things. You referenced that earlier. I want you to help define for people, because up until this point when I read your book, Rhys, I thought there was something wrong with me. The term scatterbrained, would come up, or inability to finish, or, all these negatives that I put on my own abilities. But it was really just because I hand my hand into everything. And it, I think in my journalism training, where I had a surface knowledge of lots of things, but nothing, really in depth, the jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And I felt a lot of validation from your book with my ability to move between the different skill sets. And, you honored that. So I'd like you to talk about that for a minute.
Well, I mean, for the leaders, of course, you'll tend to have at least three of those qualities strongly. So you'll either be very emotional, you'll have some high creativity and artistic, often artistic or graphic design type of abilities, or you'll be really driven and focused and have the structure down and still, but also on top of that have can also be really friendly with people, and like you have. You've got a really strong way with people and a way to inspire them through also supporting them. And so having all of the other qualities, and some, charismatic leaders tend to have at least two or three of those. When you're running a business, it's important for the charismatic leader not try to do everything themselves because they can, but to recognize that they can have empathy for and understand those other qualities because they have them strongly within themselves. So a great leader actually is very good at sort of feeling, hiring the right people for the job because that's how they would have done it. They want to hire somebody that would do it that way, in that softer way, or use, understanding which part goes where. And then they also, are able to support that person because they feel that person. So your ability to be really creative and your writing and everything doesn't mean you need to be the writer of your show. Doesn't mean to be the one that does all of the editing and all of that. But when you hire a really good editor who will be much more in the creative idealist category or knowledgeable achiever category, where that's what they love to do and that's what they're born to do, you can actually relate to them. And so the leader is someone who can relate to their entire staff rather than the leader that's either doing everything or demanding that everybody do things, the way they personally would. You have a much deeper understanding there of your staff.
Well, and thank you for that, because, in years past, like when I got my master's in business and I went to Northwestern, great school, and I came out and I worked for CBS, I worked for Disney, I worked for Marriott, some really big name companies along with Coldwell Banker. those skills weren't always seen by upper management as a good thing. They really wanted, maybe in their own control issues, really wanted to see me in one realm. Like the idea that I could create great advertising, but I could also read a spreadsheet and analyze it and make some not only data corrections, but then I could go in and show them where their software had a problem, really didn't work for them. I didn't fit in the nice, neat little corporate box, which is one of the reasons that I left corporate America and formed, my own company and my own enterprises. Now, we only have a couple minutes before commercial break, Rhys. Can you talk a little bit about not fitting into the own box you created? Because I'm sure you've had that in your lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have, and right now running, a school that has 30 staff, and I'm supposed to be both marketing and doing live events and then hiring and training staff and all, and what I'd like to talk in the next section about is really creating a great business creates a culture of unity where everybody sort of leans on each other and supports each other, and it's not built on sort of a top down, but there isn't a person in the pool that isn't as important as anyone else, because the weakest person in your link in your business is the business. So a great leader sort of puts themselves in with their group and enjoys that rather than the typical corporate hierarchy on down. And you'll find that you hire people very differently when you're not trying to protect your position, but you're trying to surround it with strong people.
Excellent, excellent. This is Sandra Beck, and this is Coach Talk Radio. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about how to apply these life purpose profiles, not only to get the best out of your staff, to give the best service to your customers, to do the best for you overall, but to really create some win-wins. And when you have win-wins, your business is easier. You struggle less. You have more success and productivity with less effort, which is really, really, really what we want to do. We want to have lives that we want to live. We don't want to create ourselves, especially in the corporate or the entrepreneurial arena, that box us in even tighter than the company we left. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit more with Rhys Thomas. We're going to talk about some of these characteristics that make us wonderful, but we're also going to talk about what happens when we get in what he calls defense and things are not so good. More after the break.
This is Uncommon Sense for Leaders, a forum for exploring leadership from the intellect, the heart, and the spirit. Whether you're a leader now or aspire to be a leader in the future, you owe it to yourself to learn about the big ideas that have shaped the careers of compelling communicators, masters of influence, and highly effective leaders. Uncommon Sense for Leaders. Tune in to hear thought-provoking ideas on every aspect of leadership. You can expect dynamic discussions with special guests, quick tips you can apply immediately for better results, and the tools you need to take you from where you are to where you want to be as a leader. Are you ready to crack the code for achieving unprecedented results? Then join the host for Uncommon Sense for Leaders, Catherine Carlisi, every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the All Business Radio Network.
It's words you never heard.
Yesterday, I called my computer helpline because I felt an overwhelming need to be made to feel ignorant by someone much younger than me. Hey, I know a few things about computers. The term reboot actually originates from the Middle Ages, when horses who stopped mid-stride required a reboot to the hoof to start again. A Timmy-Nagy is another name for a device that saves you time and labor, such as a computer. Because my computer issue couldn't be resolved over the phone, they sent a Bobby Dazzler over to have a look. The technician informed me that it appeared my computer had been shaken or dropped, or as the Scottish say, misguggled. Whoops. Did I mention I have a bit of a temper when things aren't working right?
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and Words You Never Heard has been brought to you by the Bariatric Surgery Center of Dallas.
Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck and this is Coach Talk Radio, and we are visiting with Rhys Thomas, and he wrote a book about the 5 life purpose profiles. If you are a manager, if you're a sales manager, if you are somebody who has a staff, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for your first hire, this is a really, really good business book to have. In my personal opinion, and I haven't been paid to endorse this, I think it's one of the best business books out today because of its simplicity. You don't have to memorize all these things. You don't need a chart. You don't need all these things to figure it out. You just learn the profiles. He named them so they make sense, and you apply them. And so all you really need to memorize is the profile. There's 5 of them, so that's 5 things to remember. And then the pros and cons of each. Now, Rhys, you talk about like being in defense. For me, in simplicity, I'm like the pros and the cons. This is the good thing about the person, or this is the person in their good state. This is the person in their bad state. Now, for me, I'm what am I, a character? What is it again?
You have a charismatic leader. And you have a really strong. Your charismatic leader is very versatile, can do a lot of things in the leadership way, and creative and driven. But you also have a really high value and a quality in there that we call the team player, where you really know that you're serving people in your leadership. So you inspire people rather than just bring up some new way of doing something.
Absolutely. Now, let's go to the negative, because we're all positive, hearts and flowers up until this point. The charismatic leader, like me, can be very effective. And I can be, not to be obnoxious, but I can be obnoxious, but I can be charming. I can be helpful. I can be all these things to get my way, as long as everything's in alignment with my master plan. And my ruling of the universe, which is what I call my day planner. But when things go wrong, when things are what you call in defense, or I call them my cons, or when I go into the negative, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I can become tyrannical. I can be spoiled, petulant, and obnoxious. I can be micromanaging and controlling to the nth degree. You want to throw any other negatives in there, Rhys?
Yeah, you don't, you do all of those things because at some level you felt betrayed. The charismatic leader is their big bugaboo is if they trust you as long as you comply, and when you don't comply, you've betrayed them. And that includes their boss. Their boss says, hey, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing that, and this is how it's going to go. And then the boss says, well, we're changing the plan. And the charismatic leader says, no, that was my plan. That's the plan. And now I know. And then the charismatic leader employee can actually see the boss as the enemy. And then control information or plant seeds of discontent in the workforce, things like that. So they can, when they are in their defense, they are they not only sabotage the people around them, but they sabotage themselves as well. Because by the nature of who you are, when you feel betrayed, you've lost your power. And what you're going to do now is you're going to either get even or get back at that person, or you're going to sort of pull back away and no longer trust in an employee if they've not done something you want them to do, or an employer, and the charismatic leader has a very difficult time coming back from that. So often, once they're done with somebody, they're done, and that's one of the reasons why charismatic leaders charismatic leaders in defense don't last at jobs more than 3 to 4 years before they need a change, because they often burn bridges as they move through things in defense, because they tend to be volatile about feeling when they feel betrayed. They can, they really get upset about that. The knowledgeable achiever when they're in defense, they're not as volatile, they're not as problematic, they're not as controlling and manipulative as the charismatic leader, even though they're very strong. The people that are the achievers in the world are they will feel like they are sort of disappointed in their performance, and so when they're in defense, if you're an employer and you're a knowledgeable achiever, and you know you're a knowledgeable achiever because every penny that goes by, the way the books are, everything's organized, you run a really tight business, you're a knowledgeable achiever. When you're in defense, what'll happen is that no matter how well the staff does, you will always want more from them, or you will always just upgrade the expectation. The reason you do that is because that's exactly what you do with yourself. When you're in defense, no matter how good you are at what you do, no matter how successful, no matter how much money you've made, you always, you'll have like the moment of, oh, we're the number one, we've made it to the 500 million mark or whatever happens to be in your business, and then you're like, yeah, we need to be at 7. That's, we're already behind. We're literally at the next day you come in, and you'll be working for this and you're thinking, hey, we're going to get a nice vacation here. We're going to do this. And the next day you come in to work for that knowledgeable achiever and he'll say, you know what? I was wrong. We needed to be at 700 million or whatever, or 700,000 or 70,000, whatever your business is at. That is the defense, and that person, needs to, when they're, we'll talk about how to get them out of defense, but but basically that is that self-criticism and the criticism of staff and pushing them harder than they are ready to go is just what they do to themselves when they're in their internal frame. And same thing with the charismatic leader. This charismatic leader knows that they're somehow here to rule the world and they don't know how to do it, and so they have betrayed themselves in a lot of ways when they don't step up and take their power. And so betrayal for them, this feeling like I should have done better and I should have known and we should have and this wasn't good enough. We have to push ourselves harder. That's the achiever. And then if you've got somebody who's a team player either running a business or in the business, they are constantly doing what we call people pleasing and being like a doormat. And so when they're in that place where there's no balance in their life, they literally will do whatever anybody tells them to do. They can't say no, and they can't come into any kind of a balance. In the business world, and so they feel like, and they act in very people pleasing kinds of ways, and they're selfless, and there's no fun anymore in them. They sort of get grumpy and resentful that they're doing all the work and nobody else is doing all the work. So those sound like people you know?
Oh, yeah. They sound like me, like at different times of the day. I mean, it's amazing how simple it is. And, when we know these things, Rhys, we can really go in and turn things around. Like, I will give a personal example. I run a bunch of different events. I have a lot of things going on. And when I really sat down and thought about my staff and about my teams for different either jobs that I'm doing or charity events or different things I'm running, how identifying, these people in defense or I don't know what the offense, whatever the pros and cons.
We call it their core. We call it their core quality. Their core stuff.
Their core quality versus their defense. I can look at people now and very quickly go, okay, this is this type of person. This is okay. They're in defense right now. What can I do to move them out of defense? If it's a leader, I need to help them feel more in control and empowered. If it's one of the emotional ones, I can listen to them, lend an ear, even for 2 minutes, just go, well, what's wrong? What are you feeling? Something's going on here. I'm going to be honest, most of the time I don't really care and I can't fix it and I'm not good with the emotional side of it. I will feel bad sometimes, but most of the time I'm like, okay, I'm just going to listen and smile and let them have their thing so that they can get back to work. I mean, I'm not trying to be awful. It's just kind of the way I'm made. But when I can see what somebody needs, maybe I'm not the most empathetic person in the world, but I can at least help a little bit. And a lot of times, for example, with my big charity event, there were a couple, and I call them just my feelers. It's like, okay, my feelers are coming in. They're upset. They're this. They let me talk and, say what's wrong. And then they were like, the tablecloth's this and the flower arrangements aren't that. And, they were so upset about these things. I let them vent so they could go back to work. And at the most basic level, understanding what my team needs allows me to get the best out of them, and then they can get the best out of themselves, and the byproduct is a smashing event.
Absolutely, absolutely, and being able to communicate and help people, go into their strength, and for the knowledgeable achiever, showing them that what they're doing is making a really important impact, and has been incredible. Show them the success that they have had already, and that that they need to take a break every now and then and enjoy that, and actually help them have a party, a staff party, something like that, where they actually can be honored for the hard work and the discipline that they've done, and for the charismatic leader also, like you said, remind them that people really love the way they lead. It's like they are an inspiration, and when they don't trust another person, when they fall into that pattern of control, they lose the motivation of the staff, and showing them and reminding them of what an important leader and important integral part of the business they are, whether they be the owner or not, is what really brings them back and reminds them that they've got a mission. And if you can get a hold of that mission and kind of get a feel for what their mission is, that's huge. That really changes the way. So when you speak to the charismatic leader about their mission, you speak to to the knowledgeable achiever about their goals, you speak to the team player about how fantastic the team is working right now. These are all the ways that you are really bring everybody back back online.
Well, and I loved what you said. I wrote it down because, I used to think I was shining people on, to give them what they need. And, it was such a negative way to put it and almost insulting to myself. And you use the term go into their strength. So from now on, I'm going to take shining people on to I'm going to help people get back into their strength. So many things in your book, Rhys, have given me the languaging to be my personal best and to go into my own strength. The book we're talking about today is the 5 Life Purpose Profiles. You're going to want to get a copy of this book. Rhys Thomas is the author, Rhys Thomas. You can get it wherever books are sold. The easiest way is to go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. It's right there, or discoveryourpurposebook.com. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about these life purpose profiles and how they really relate to each other and relate to us getting the best possible work out of ourselves and out of others.
This is God in Country, the collision of faith and politics, hosted by nationally known speaker, Reverend Dr. Sean Michael Greener. Not your typical Rev. Dr. Sean is a proud military veteran, former law enforcement officer, and founder of the internationally regarded Executive Protection Team. Dr. Sean holds a bachelor's degree in biblical counseling and master's and doctorate degrees in theology, and is currently pursuing a doctorate in ministry with a Hebrew worldview focus. Through his counseling, elite life coaching, and national speaking, this ninja pastor tells it like it is. This series is biblically and politically engaged with the pedal to the metal. Join host and author of the acclaimed yet controversial book, Excellence Killed the Church, How Mediocrity is Destroying America, Dr. Sean Michael Greener. Every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this radio network.
It's words you never heard.
A Canadian man thought it would be a good idea to parachute into the city's annual rodeo, the Calvary Stampede, in order to advertise a cleaning products company. After purchasing a parachute, the only problem was how to get airborne in order to make the jump. So he bought a lawn chair and attached over 100 helium party balloons to provide the lift. Simple, right? Apparently he doesn't have hypsophobia. That's the fear of heights. He also carried a dart gun to shoot a few balloons in case he started floating too high. Unfortunately, he ended up more than a mile off course and had to jump in a field instead, where police were waiting and arrested him for mischief. At least he proved himself an altitudinarian. That's a person who aspires to great heights.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and Words You Never Heard has been brought to you by the Bariatric Surgery Center of Dallas.
Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck and this is Coach Talk Radio, and we're visiting today with Rhys Thomas, the author of the 5 Life Purpose Profiles, and we're relating them to business today because they really do help you get the best out of your employees, get the best out of your work teams, get the best out of your customers and your clients, and that's really important, as well as getting the best out of yourself. It really helps you understand who you are and why you do the things you do. One of the things Rhys's book gave me as a manager and a leader was great peace of mind. Some of the things that I've been criticized for in the past that secretly I felt were really part of my gifts were painted in such a negative or pejorative light, like, oh, I'm scatterbrained, oh, I can't focus, oh, I can't this or that or whatever. And it's like, you know what? Those are some of the actual strengths that make me really good at what I do. So the book is very validating, and it gives you the words. Like before we went to commercial break, some of the things I would do as a manager, staff have told me, or managers have told me, or my ex-husband has told me, well, you're just manipulating. You're just manipulating people. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just a manipulator. But then I realized that I am getting the best out of myself, getting the best out of my staff, getting the best out of people for a win-win, an all good, not, a one-sided win. And Rhys had the great terminology of I got people into their strength, or I get myself into our strength. I get us all into our strength. That's a lot better than the terms of like you're a manipulator or it's manipulation or, my words, shining people on.
Right.
So, yeah, Rhys, that's really important. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, and that's the difference between the profile system that I offer here and the other types of profiling systems. These aren't behavioral. These are core qualities. And when you learn this language, first of all, as we're talking about business leaders here, managers, or people running businesses wherever they are, when you learn about these profiles, you open up a language that in other worlds, each of these profiles literally have their own language. When you can speak that language, it's not manipulation to motivate them. For instance, I have a little bit of charismatic leader in me. I certainly like to be on the radio. I like to talk. I like to lead my school and that. But that's not my highest strength. And all my 25 years in martial arts really proved that I could. Charismatic leaders really have my number. They can kick my ass 17 ways to Sunday because they're just that much stronger and more aggressive than I naturally am. But to then be able to talk to them and say, and you can say manipulation to a charismatic leader, and they don't think it's a dirty word. If you say manipulation to a emotional intelligence specialist and say, you're being kind of manipulative like that, the emotional intelligence specialist will be like, oh my God, I didn't mean to, I'm so sorry, or the team player, and whereas when you say to a charismatic leader, that was a pretty decent manipulation you had right there. You got the whole thing turned around. They'll nod and smile. They'll go, yeah, baby, that was me. And when you are able to honor it, not in a bad way, not in a judgmental way, not in the way that they're afraid that they're going to be called out for this, but to actually say, we need the person that can convince this person of what's best for them. Not just manipulate them into something, but actually manipulate them out of a bad choice. And that is really what you want to be doing with your staff and being able to talk to your knowledgeable achievers and say, man, nobody knows what to do, and then you just call out their name and come over here. We are all lost in this. We need some kind kind of a structure here. And now you honor them every moment that there's an opportunity for you to let them shine, or to what I call shine or show their greatness. You call out their greatness in them and say, of course, you are the one we're going to go to when we need this. And you're the one that we're going to go to when we need this. And you over here, you're going to be the, so when we need inspiration, we're going to go to the charismatic leader. When we need structure and organization, we're going to the knowledgeable achiever. That person then knows and feels their value in the business, rather than this is your job and everybody does their job and they think, well, everybody must have to do knowledgeable achiever stuff and everybody must have to do this. But really knowing the difference is essential for a leader, and then encouraging that and showing them and saying, when we're really lost and we're really having, it's like a product didn't come in or we couldn't make the deadline and everybody's really down, we're going to go to this person, the emotional intelligence specialist person who's got the huge heart, and we're going to ask that person, what would you do? And they may say, hey, we're gonna get in the room, we're gonna all meditate, we're gonna just sit together, we're gonna talk about things, we need to talk this through, and they will know how to move people in that way. And so each one of these qualities, if you don't know them, all you're doing is taking a job description and hoping that the person can do it, and you don't really know how to keep them motivated to do that job. If you know who they are, you pick jobs that they'll succeed at, and you'll be able to remind them of how good they are at that, which other employers will often have never seen. And so one of the reasons my business is so successful is that the very first weekend that students come into the program, we read their profiles and we tell them things about themselves that they thought they were the only ones that knew. And we not only tell them about it, but we say, that's what we love about you. This is the quality within you that we love. Now you're telling them, and that's not and that's not shining them, as you were saying. That's actually the truth, because it is what you love about these people. The soft people, you love their softness. The caretaking people, you love their caretaking. The creative people, you love how they're just off on another planet thinking about something amazing. And the achiever people, God, you want to be around them because they're just got everything together and organized. And the charismatic people, you just love that you have no idea what's coming out of them next, but it's going to be something big and wild and inspiring.
And never dull.
And never dull. Never dull.
The famous thing my dad always said to me. He goes, you know what, San, being with you is never dull. And, and that's great because that was my dad. But to be validated in your book about what our value is as individuals, and for some of us that are composites of multiple or more than one, we don't fit neatly into one little box. It's really good to know that, and it's really good to recognize, Rhys, one of the things that I found of particular value with your book is that when I come in up with another charismatic leader, I can recognize that, so there's less likelihood of us bumping into each other. And when I structure things, I can structure them so that we both have a chance to lead, and we both can shine together and actually increase our power, almost like Wonder Twin powers activate. That's a skill set that I picked up from applying the principles in your book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when two charismatic leaders get together, charismatic leaders by their nature make everybody else a team player, right? So I'm leading, you're following. So learning how to give a little bit at the beginning so the other leader really feels like you've got their back, and then they will have no problem returning the favor. So understanding this work where you may try to dominate first, and that's always a bad idea with a charismatic leader. You actually go in and you since you already have a strong team player, you are able to to go in there and say, hey, this is great. We have the same mission. We can do this together. I'm so behind what you're doing. I want to support you in any way I possibly can. Boom, all of a sudden you are talking their language, and now then you tell them what your mission is, and if it's congruent, that person then will feel like, wow, they understand the value of the win-win, but it's got to be a win for them. They have to feel like this is going to be a win for me. Then they go for the win-win, and so knowing how to do that as a leader, you won't have a problem. You won't get in the pissing match with other leaders. You'll be able to win them over to your side. And both of you get the win-win out of it.
And that's where we, hark back to my kind of rule of thumb where, when we're working, either hiring somebody or working with somebody or co-leading with someone, if I make a list in my head of like what I'm not good at, what I don't want to do, like what doesn't serve me or what isn't worth my time or what I think somebody else can do better or I can't do. That's where when I get into a leadership position and I have other leaders that we're working jointly, like on a board of directors or on a board for children's charities, I have started identifying, okay, first of all, I'm selfish. So I'm like, here's the things I don't want to do. So I'm like, okay, what leader can take over in the things I don't want to do? Then I go, what leader can take over the things I'm not good at? Things like that. All of a sudden, I find leaders that can shine in these areas that I'm not good at, don't want to do, or whatever. And we all elevate. And that's a very different modality than I've done in years past in coming into leadership positions.
Absolutely. And you don't tell them that I'm giving you this job because I don't want to do it. You tell them that I'm giving you this job because you will be so much better than I am at this. And that is the humble leader is the one who becomes the most powerful, truly in the long run with employees and really empowers the employees because they do know that, yeah, I could probably do all these things myself, maybe even better than the people that are doing these jobs, but I can't do them all. And so a motivated and well-trained and well-selected staff. I truly believe you hire for character and skills are easy. If you hire the right character for the job, the right personality traits for the job, you can train them to do just about anything. But if you hire the wrong character for the job, even with the greatest skills and background, they are going to have a very difficult time succeeding, and you will not be happy with that employee or your hire.
Right, and then we're all dead in the water, so there's a vested interest in getting the right members in the right positions on our teams, and you've had a way to simplify that. And, in our next show, we're going to be on again next week, and for those of you that are looking for all these episodes, you can go to iTunes and type in Coach Talk Radio. You can go to toginet.com, look for Coach Talk Radio. You can also Google Sandra Beck, Coach Talk Radio, and all this stuff will come up. And one last piece of advice before we end the show, Rhys, is what you were talking about earlier. I want to encourage people as leaders, because that's all I can do, one leader to another, is to accept the concept of better. We're so driven with best. Sometimes leveraging over to somebody what they can do better, even though your best might be better, let them do better because better often is good enough. We don't always have to be best in every arena, and using somebody else's better instead of exhausting yourself always for your best is a really good technique that I've used over the years. Now, this is Coach Talk Radio. Our guest today is Rhys Thomas. He's going to be back again next week. You're going to want to get a copy of his book, The 5 Life Purpose Profiles, wherever books are sold. This is Sandra Beck and Coach Talk Radio. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you for listening. On behalf of Sandra Beck and Scott Frazier, we want you to get out there today to make more money with less time and effort so you can live the life you want. Tune in next week for more tips, tricks, and techniques from Coach Talk Radio.